Hello to my lovely BL fam. It's Kayla here, back with a new type of video that I've wanted to do for a while now. But for the first order of business, how are you all holding up? I genuinely want to know because I feel like 2020 has just flipped everyone on their heads. That being said, I hope this video will help to temporarily get your mind off whatever it is you're going through. So today, here's the deal. I'm going to be responding to some comments from my videos that caught my attention. All usernames will be blocked out. No hate to anyone. You know I'm always on my peace, love, hippie bullshit. But let's get into it. Right off the bat, I want to respond to this comment from my latest video, What Really Happened Between Mew and Art. Now, I received a ton of comments like this one informing me that Mew did get a lot of hate at the time of the incident, and still does. As someone who wasn't around for the incident, I never experienced how bad it truly got for either party. So I think that when I said I personally haven't seen hate towards Mew, I should have specified that I meant recently as a person who follows him on social media. That's on me, and I apologize for not coming across that information when I did my research. I probably should have found someone who witnessed firsthand what the fan reaction was at that time. So again, I'm sorry that I made it seem like everyone took Mew's side, because after reading through your comments, I can see that that definitely was not the case. Let's move on to these two comments from my third unpopular opinions video. Now, these stuck out to me for varying reasons, but I'm going to start with this one. So I've seen a lot of people saying that there should be more of a distinction between the past and present and Until We Meet Again. And I agree with this, kind of. I think the first scene in episode 1 should have opened with a date on the screen, and when the scene cut to present day, there should have been a date indicating that time jump. I'm not sure why they chose to omit that, but when I first started watching this drama, that did cause some confusion for me. I say kind of agree with this because of the part about Until We Meet Again failing to distinguish a 70s aesthetic. I think it can be difficult to spot the differences in fashion, technology, and environment because the 70s aesthetic is currently in style. So for clothing, Korn and In Touch weren't dressed in modern clothes per se, but when you fast forward to Dean and Parm, you can see that they're wearing similar styles. It might have to do with nostalgia as a trend. We see brands like Guess, Coach, and Tommy Hilfiger releasing vintage-themed collections where they bring back designs from the brand's past. It's a marketing ploy to stir up memories and feelings from childhood that we, as adults, want to reobtain. So that's why I never had a disparity with the costume design in this drama. As for technology, we did see the use of cassette tapes as well as Perth's old-fashioned camera. For environment, I can't really speak on that because I don't know what the infrastructure of Thailand was like in the 70s, but if you do, please share that information with us down below. I want to add that I recently watched His, and I really loved its 2000s aesthetic. I might make a video discussing it. And yeah, I can't disagree with you on the lighting being terrible in some scenes. Turn on the electricity, New! This next comment almost changed my mind about the staring scenes in Until We Meet Again, because you're absolutely right about their effectiveness in conceptualizing trauma. PTSD, DID, whatever it is specifically that Parm's character is dealing with, it isn't something that a person can quickly snap out of. So I think you have a very insightful point, and I want to mention one staring scene that I loved and didn't think was drawn out or overdone. In episode 14, there's this scene where Korn is getting dressed and ready to leave the apartment while In Touch is lying in bed staring at his back. We see the smile of contentment on his face, and slowly it morphs into this look of fear and anxiety. It's a moment of foreboding. He knows the relationship is doomed and is cherishing every second he has left with Korn. For me, this was actually one of the saddest scenes in the drama, and barely any words are exchanged. It's literally just In Touch staring. So that's a staring scene, and Until We Meet Again I thought was really well done. Next up is a comment that was made on my second unpopular opinions video, and I can't tell if it's a joke or not. I want to say it is, but just in case it isn't, let's have a mini discussion. So by saying that you're colorblind in terms of skin tone or even race, That is undoubtedly belittling to the very real discrimination that people of color go through every day. Whether it's colorism in Asia or institutionalized racism in the West, being colorblind furthers this narrative that we're all treated equally when we're not. Because I focus primarily on the BL industry, let's talk about the privilege that light-skinned actors have over dark-skinned actors. Colorism is an invasive part of the casting process, and an example that I've seen you guys mention in my comments is Golf being cast as Type in the series Tharntype. Now, we love Golf in this household, but the novel readers will tell you that Type's character is supposed to have a darker complexion. Geographically, that makes sense. So for Golf, who is noticeably pale, to be cast as a character that's described as completely opposite of that, it yields the question, why? I'm sure it's not the first time a character has been whitewashed for a series adaptation, and you could argue that he just happened to be the actor who best fit the role, but I don't know, guys. Seems a little colorist to me. Another thing related to this topic that you guys have brought up in my comments is how characters tend to have an open dialogue about pale skin being the most desirable. I could pinpoint a lot of examples, but the first one that comes to my mind is from the series Why Are You? So within the first 20 minutes of episode 1, there are at least 2 moments where the colorism jumped out. The first one is a bit subtle, but it's when Kay's character is introduced. We see him have an exchange with Tudor's loan shark's son, where the latter gives him an attitude, then proceeds to order a macadamia with black syrup on top. Lots of it. Am I reading too much into this line? Because it kind of sounds like a play on words about Kay's skin tone. Right after this, Tudor walks into the cafe and the loan shark's son starts demanding the money his family owes. Of course, Tudor doesn't have the money up front, so this guy says to him, "Actually, you're quite good looking. Fair skin, red cheeks. I better take you as interest." I just can't, you guys. Overall, it's pretty evident that actors with a lighter complexion are pushed to the forefront, while actors with a darker complexion are not getting so frequently cast or cast into a character that's insulted for their skin tone. Like I said, this comment could very well be sarcastic, but on the off chance that it isn't, I didn't want to just skirt past it, especially not when so many of you were brave enough to share with us your negative experiences with colorism. But on to the next. Here's a notable comment from my first Unpopular Opinions video. So I'm glad you mentioned how the majority of BL novels are written by women who fetishize gay men, because I am fascinated by Mame. If you don't know her, she's the author of the Love by Chance and Tharntype novels. Now, I want to discuss this because I'm a writer myself, and in the past, I've been faced with this internal conflict of wanting to write stories inspired by personal trauma without romanticizing content that's triggering. For example, I used to write fan fiction, and in my stories, I explored themes that aren't PG, to put it simply, but I always believed that I was portraying the scenarios and the characters in a non-glamorized way because I was writing from my own experiences. That being said, I don't know Mame's life, but many people have voiced their concerns about her romanticizing rape and other non-consensual activity in her novels. A couple weeks back, I retweeted this great post that was made shedding light on the issue. I'll be linking it down below so you can read it in full. But 2 examples I want to mention are Techno and Kankla ending up as a couple after one raped and manipulated the other. And of course, something that's bugged all of us, Long getting away scot-free with the blackmail and gang rape of Tar. Now this post is pointing out that there's a pattern here of rape being minimalized and even decriminalized. And as much as I enjoy Love by Chance and Tharntype, we need to hold Mame accountable for the content she writes, especially because young, impressionable girls consume her work. I don't want them to have in their minds that forcing yourself on someone is okay, or that you should condone abuse on the basis of love. You know, there is a difference between depicting triggering events and romanticizing them. For example, if you've watched my most recent Unpopular Opinions video, you'll know that I really like Tar's storyline. Imagine going through what he did, and when the truth is finally revealed, your perpetrator suffers no consequences. Honestly, that happens far too often in real life. But in Tharn Type, at least in the series, Mame spins this narrative of sympathy for Long when he's not at all the victim. She has Tharn's brother, Thorn, forgive him for sending a group of men to sexually assault a kid. That is fucked. I respect Mame's accomplishments, and I was so excited to see her tweet about the process of translating her novels into English. But damn, the woman has got to sit down with some victims of abuse and have them explain to her why these scenarios she's writing are inexcusable. So these final comments are what made me want to make this video. They really had me questioning if I should have worded things differently or elaborated more on marketing strategies, but here they are, and let's respond. So on the surface level, companies showcasing gay storylines in ads is great, and I think necessary in terms of creating visibility. I know for myself, I'm drawn more towards a piece of media if I resonate with it. A commercial that depicts a boy confessing his love to his male friend with an ice cream cone doesn't come off as exploitative. I thought it was gosh darn cute. But I think that people are a little too trusting when it comes to a company's intent with this type of advertising. Companies do not care about people. They do not care about social issues. Their only concerns are to make a profit and maintain good PR. So when you see these companies showcasing gay storylines in commercials or through product placement, it's not because they're enthusiastically supportive of the LGBTQ+ community. It's because they're following a trend to seem progressive and earn woke points. There's this term called pink money or the pink dollar that refers to the purchasing power of the LGBTQ+ community. Essentially, that means that gay people have money to spend and businesses are starting to capitalize on that with promotions that push inclusivity. Now, this tends to be a double-edged sword because while it's helping to normalize minority lifestyles, for many businesses, that's not the reason why they're doing it. That's when it gets into this gray area of representation and exploitation. But to bring it back to these comments, there is most definitely a stark difference between companies using gay and straight characters to promote products. Because as open-minded as we are, compulsory heterosexuality still exists. Society is still dominated by heterosexual relationships being the norm. And in turn, that makes non-heterosexual relationships a taboo. Things that are taboo often become fetishized. It's a case of, look at this thing that's forbidden, fantasize about it. And what do you know? We see this in BL dramas, both the shows themselves and in the fandom. As outrageous as it seems to us, there are fans who fetishize gay characters in dramas, but are homophobic in real life. And it's not just a handful of people. It's true that love is love. We can all agree on that. But for many viewers of these dramas, that is not their train of thought. Instead, it's discourse about who the wifey is in the relationship and other stereotypes that originate from fetishization. For them, existing as a gay person in the world and struggling through obstacles based on sexuality is a fantasy. Fetishization is something we don't see with heterosexual characters and storylines in advertisements because we're socialized from the moment we're born to be with the opposite sex, romantically, sexually, etc. So I think as people in the LGBTQ+ community, we have to be the ones to learn how to differentiate between authentic representation and over-sexualized caricatures. In addition, you have to ask yourself what you value more. Representation that's commercialized for a straight audience, or no representation at all. Honestly, this is a topic with a lot of nuance to it. But the point I was trying to make in the original video is that our predecessors have died for our rights. I don't take their sacrifices lightly. So for companies to use our likeness to pander to a drama's straight female audience is disrespectful. Buy a Miss Teen eyeshadow, buy a choo-choo drink. In the future, I bet I'll buy something that's advertised. But please, as consumers, consider who you're buying from. And as a marginalized group, be conscious of how we're being portrayed. But those are all the comments that I wanted to respond to today. Hopefully this wasn't boring and you guys got something out of it. For my next video, I want to do an on-camera Q&A, so watch out for that on my community tab and social media. Thank you for watching. As always, take care of yourselves. Seriously, self-care, practice it. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.